Welcome to this mini seminar on networking for job search and career success. My name is Peter Weddle. Now, whether you've been in the workplace for 30 years or for 30 minutes, you've had undoubtedly used networking to find a new job or to advance your career. But here's the rub. The techniques that you've used for networking in the past will no longer work in the present or the future. The world of work has changed profoundly, and as a result, we have to change the way we network in order to be successful. Let's talk first about how the workplace has changed. There have really been two significant developments in the world of work. The first is that change is the new norm. We've seen rising competition all around the globe. American companies are no longer competing against other firms with cheaper labor. They're competing against other firms with smarter labor. In other words, we have to up our game if we want to stay competitive. Second, there has been the continuous introduction of new technology, new ways of developing products, new ways of transporting them, new ways of introducing them into the workplace. And that's been accompanied by a significant growth in knowledge. So think about this. In the year 2000, we human beings created 4 terabytes of new knowledge. That's 4 followed by 20 zeros. That was more new knowledge created in that 1 year than in the previous 5,000 years of human history. If you go to college today in a technical subject, by the time you get to your junior year, 50% of what you learned in your freshman year will be obsolete. As a result, the definition of qualified, what it takes to be considered by an employer as a qualified applicant or by an employer as a qualified performer, as a qualified employee, has changed dramatically. At the very same time, there's been a second development, and that is that you are on your own. Historically, of course, employers have managed our careers for us. They gave us a career ladder. We went to work for one employer and worked there our whole careers for the gold watch, and we had lots of job security. And none of those 3 things still exist. Today, the career ladder has been replaced by a career jungle gym, and it's up to you to find your way across those rungs. You don't go to work for the gold watch anymore. You're going to go through 5, 10, even 15 different job changes and employer changes during your career. And job security is an artifact of the past. Given all that change that I've described, employers today can't tell what kind of talent they're going to need 6 months from now, let alone 2 or 3 years down the road. So there is no job security, but there is career security. Career security is the ability always to be employed and always by an employer of your choice. How do you get it? You have to be equally as adept at managing your own career, at being a career self-manager, as you are in your profession, craft, or trade. Now, there are 7 facets to an effective career self-management program, and today we're going to talk about the second. Strengthen your career circulatory system. The circulatory system of your career is networking. It is the network of contacts that you have that can help you advance yourself in your career. Now, why is networking important? Well, there are really 2 reasons. If you are in transition, think about this. 1/3 of all jobs are never advertised. You'll never see them posted on a job board. You'll never see them even posted on a company career website. Those jobs are called the hidden job market, and they are among some of the best and most rewarding opportunities in the workplace. So if you're in transition and you want to have access to some of the best opportunities, you have to know how to network, because that's how employers are going to fill those jobs. Second, if you're employed, networking provides you with the support and assistance you're going to need to be successful. Undoubtedly, from time to time in your career, you're going to come up against problems, against things that you've never seen before. If you have a strong network of contacts who want to help you, those individuals can make sure that you know how to solve that problem effectively and efficiently. And also, if you're well known among your peers, if they know who you are and what you're capable of, they're going to make sure that you're considered for plum assignments and new opportunities. So even when you are employed, it's important to be networking all of the time. So how do you network in this new world of work? Well, step one, unfortunately, is to unlearn bad behaviors. For the past 4 or 5 years, everybody has been very excited about the impact of social media, and social media definitely can help us take away some of the time requirements, some of the hard work involved in traditional networking. But unfortunately, a lot of us have looked at Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and decided that the way you network on social media is to build up your address book. And nothing could be further from the truth. You know, we think that the key to networking on social media sites is to have more friends on Facebook, it's to have more followers on Twitter, it's to have more connections on LinkedIn, and if that were all it took, we wouldn't have 13 million people still in transition. Why doesn't that work? Well, think back to the first lesson your mother taught you. What did she teach you? Don't speak to strangers. When you've built up a huge address book and you barely know anybody in that address book, and most of those people don't know you, they're unlikely to go to bat for you when you need help when you're in transition, or when you need support when you're trying to solve a hard problem on the job. So networking isn't about building up an address book. We got to unlearn that bad behavior. Networking in this new world of work, where change is a fact of life, is all about creating and maintaining professional relationships. Now, step two, of course, is building up those relationships. And there are really two strategies for doing that. The first might be described as a passive strategy. It's all about building up your credentials, how well people know you in the world of work. And you can do that a couple of ways. The first is to archive your resume or your profile on certain kinds of key sites. You want to make sure, for example, that you have a resume archived in the database on the Career Center on your professional association's website. You want to make sure that you have a complete entry in the directory that's maintained in the alumni organization for your college and graduate school. And you want to make sure that you have a complete profile on LinkedIn. These kinds of passive promotional efforts make sure that there's a growing number of people who know you. Now, the second way to build relationships is much more proactive. It's about promoting your brand. You want to make sure that you have a reputation in the world of work as a knowledgeable peer who goes out of his or her way to help others in their careers. If you can accomplish that, if you can build that kind of brand, you're going to get much more out of your networking. So what you want to do then is interact with your peers on a regular basis, and you can do that in two places. One is the discussion forums hosted on Your Pals. Your Pals are three kinds of sites. First of all, the discussion forums on your professional association's website. Second, the discussion forums on your alumni organization site. And third, the discussions that take place in LinkedIn groups that specialize in your profession, craft, or trade, or your industry. By interacting with your peers in those kind of environments, you can build up that reputation as someone who has expertise in your field, and equally as important, someone who's willing to offer that expertise to others as a way to help them out. The other way you can be proactive about building up relationships is on a blog either that you write or that you contribute to when somebody else writes it. You want to be on that blog on a regular basis, helping or contributing to the discussion that takes place there so that people can see your skills and knowledge in your particular field and appreciate the input that you offer to the dialogue going on at that site. Let's talk a little bit more about those relationships. Professional relationships are a lot like personal relationships. Now, if you've ever been in a personal relationship, you know two things about them. First, they are hard work. The second is that they take a lot of time. And the same is true about professional networking. In fact, network is one of those rare words that says exactly what it means. It's network, not sit back and have a pina colada, or net relax, or net get around to it whenever you feel like it. You want to make networking an integral part of your business day, something you do every single day as a part of your job. And second, You want to practice the golden rule of networking. Now, this rule is as simple as it is profound. It goes like this: you have to give as good as you get. In other words, if you want people to be helpful to you, you have to first be helpful to them. Now, what does that mean? That means that the most effective networking occurs before you need it. If you're networking while you are employed, you're going to have that circle of friends, that circle of contacts who are going to be there ready to help you when you're in transition and need their support and assistance. Or when you're employed down the road and you come up against a really difficult problem on the job and you need to have some assistance from your peers out there in your network. If you've built up those relationships before you need them, those people are going to be ready to help you. So let's talk about the two venues where you can do professional networking. You know, all of the chatter about social media sites, about Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, might lead some people to believe that networking in the real world is no longer as important as it once was, and that's simply not true. In other words, networking should be something that you do online and offline as well. Where can you do it offline? Well, of course, what you want to do is interact with your peers. So you want to attend the meetings and conferences of your professional society and your trade association. And you want to be engaged in professional and industry education and training programs, again, where you'll have an opportunity not only to learn, but to meet with and interact with your peers. Now, there are two rules to networking effectively in the real world. The first is, don't just show up. In other words, don't just come to a conference or to a meeting of your professional association and just sit there in the audience and do nothing. What you want to do is practice networking. You want to work at building relationships with your peers. So I would suggest that you use what I call the 2-to-1 method. In every single meeting that you attend, in every single course setting that you attend, make sure that you introduce yourself to 2 people that you haven't previously met. Make sure that you advance the number of peers, of colleagues, of coworkers that you have in your network, and engage in one extended conversation with somebody that you've already met to reinforce and nurture that relationship that you've already established. So that's rule 1. Don't just show up. Rule 2 is to do good follow-up. First, make sure, once you've met someone, that you acknowledge your interaction. You send them an email message, you send them even a note the old-fashioned way through postal mail, however you want to do it. Make sure that you go the extra mile and acknowledge that you've met someone for the first time and that you enjoyed having that opportunity. Then you want to reinforce that relationship over time. The best rule of thumb I can give you is that you want to interact with every single person in your network at least once a year. You want to make sure that you are advancing the relationship on an ongoing basis. What about networking at the PALs, online, at the professional association websites, at alumni websites, and at LinkedIn? Well, here, the best advice I can give you is that you want to make sure that you participate in as many of these discussion forums or blogs as you can reasonably do so. I would recommend more than 1, but no more than 3, because it's very important that you follow 2 rules in each of these venues. The first, again, is don't just show up. In other words, you want to participate regularly, and participation online on a regular basis is really 2 times a week. Not more than 2 times a week. This stuff can get addictive, but at least 2 times a week so that you can make a contribution to the ongoing dialogue in the discussion forum or the blog. Second, make sure that you put your best foot forward. Make sure that you proofread what you post and that the motivation that you have is always to share your knowledge, your expertise, to help others. Not to show off, not to burnish yourself as an expert in the field, but rather to be helpful to others. And if from time to time a disagreement crops up in the discussion, make sure that you disagree politely. The second rule for networking on the web is to do good follow-up. You want to make sure that relationships that you've built in those blogs or discussion forums are nurtured in a way that's effective. So you want to try to follow up with people individually outside the discussion forum or the blog. Develop one-on-one relationships with them so that, again, they can expand your network for you. And secondly, you want to make sure that just because the relationship starts in the real world doesn't mean that it can only exist there. Always look for opportunities to meet those peers that you've interacted with online in the real world as well. Okay, we've talked about networking as one facet of the 7 facets involved in building a healthy career. And as I said at the outset, this is particularly important in today's frenetic, demanding, but also opportunity-rich workplace. We've never had more challenges or more opportunities with which to work. But in order to do that, we're going to have to be as proficient at managing our own career as we are at managing our profession, craft, or trade, our expertise in our occupation. I've decided to call the career management system that I think is most effective career fitness, because we all know 2 things about our health. The first is that we are individually responsible for our own health, and the second is that we have to work on it every single day. That's true whether we're 21 or 61 years of age. We have to always be involved with making sure that we're living a healthy life. Well, the same is true with our careers. We are individually responsible for the health of our careers, not our boss, not our employer, not our mentor, not our parents. We are individually responsible for the health of our careers, and we have to work on it every single day. We have to be engaged in a proactive way in building up the strength, the reach, and the endurance of our careers. And the 7 aspects of a healthy career designed into the career fitness system is one of the most effective ways that you can do that. If you'd like to learn more, please take a look at the Career Fitness Workbook, which is available on Amazon.com. Thanks very much. This concludes the mini seminar on networking. Again, my name is Peter Weddle.